Coming up on Backchecking the Bolts.
We're walking back to where we had parked, and it's in a neighborhood, and there's a couple out walking their dog. The lady goes, "Hey, I just want to ask you a question." I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" She goes, "Do you trade Kucherov after this?" And I'm like, I get it, man. I get this knee-jerk reaction that you want to blow it all up. It's 4 years in a row. But I go, no. I was like, you don't trade arguably the best player in the league. And then the man she was with, like, I go, unless it's a Godfather offer, unless it's a deal you absolutely cannot refuse, like 5 first-round picks and a 2 grade A prospects. Well, what if it's McDavid? I was like, the funny thing is, I bet you there are fans in Edmonton that would take this deal in a heartbeat.
Welcome to Backchecking the Bolts. Backchecking the Bolts is your cup of coffee to get you the latest on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Join host Jason Linkus and the managing editor of Raw Charge, Justin Godfrey, as they break down the Lightning's most recent games and go beyond the highlights, telling you what the box scores didn't. It's time to drop the puck.
It's your Backchecking the Bolts instant reaction to the 2-1 loss to Montreal in Game 7. Montreal advances, winning the series 4-3. They will go and face the Buffalo Sabres. For the Lightning, it's the 4th straight postseason where they have been eliminated in the first round. In 2023, it was Toronto. 2024 and 25, it was Florida. This time, it's Montreal. I bring in my co-host, the managing editor of Raw Charge. He's Justin Godfrey. You can read him each and every day at www.rawcharge.com. Justin, you were there. It's a disappointing game. It was a good effort. A game that Montreal had only 9 shots, and they won. That was the fewest shots by any team in NHL playoff history where they won a game. What were your initial thoughts?
And you just sit there and you're like, if they had played like this for 7 games, if they had played like this in the first 5 games, 6 games, I don't think the series goes 6. I think, or I should say, it ends in 6 games. I thought they played fantastic. I thought they did everything they had to do. We talked about in Game 6, they played with a little bit of risk, but they were a little loose defensively. I thought they tightened that up. I thought they played a great defensive game today. And it's not just that they only, Montreal had only 9 shots on goal. It wasn't like one of these where Montreal was spending a ton of time and they were missing the net or shots were getting blocked or anything like that. And they just didn't have the puck in the offensive zone. I mean, the Lightning shut them down in the neutral zone. They pushed everything out to the side. There was maybe 2 flurries that the Canadiens had where they had some sustained zone time. One in the first, one in the third. Or excuse me, yeah, one in the third right before the goal. But I thought the Lightning did great. I thought they did enough offensively. And we'll talk about this in a little bit. Montreal's a tough defensive team, but I thought the Lightning, as far as getting chances, getting looks, probably had their best game doing that as well. Yes, they didn't have the high danger chances, but I thought they had a lot more of those kind of secondary mid-range danger chances that they hadn't been getting. And the puck just didn't go in the net for them. If you look at both of Montreal's goals, and the first one is a nice deflection by Suzuki, but it's going 4 feet wide till it hits JJ Moser. And then the second one, didn't like what Vasilevsky was trying to do, where he tried to punch it out of the air instead of just getting back to the post and covering that up. And that gave Alex Newhook the room to kind of tuck it in. So, but again, the bounces went Montreal's way. And to give them credit, they created those bounces. Before the Suzuki goal, they won like 2 board battles to keep the puck in the zone, keep possession of the puck. Newhook was the first on the puck behind the net, so they won those little battles and it turned into goals for them. Lightning did what they could, and, they just couldn't get that extra bounce. So it's just a really disappointing loss. I thought for them to play that way and not pick out a win, it just kind of stings. It's that old gut punch.
Jakub Dobeš, again, played really well. He's a rookie. Not many rookies win Game 7s in the playoffs, especially against a team as formidable as the Lightning. But give it to Dobeš. He was really good, even though he faced 20 more shots than Vasilevsky. I'm not sure if he really had to stand on his head all game. He had to make some good saves, don't get me wrong. But I still felt like a lot of Tampa's pressure, with the exception of a couple moments in the first period, most of their pressure came from the outside. They never had those in-tight chances that really would test Dobish. Is that accurate?
To a point, I would say. I mean, like if you look back at Game 6, like you could say Vasilevsky stole that game, right? He made a ton of great saves in a close game. Would you say Dobish stole this game? I don't know if I'd go that far. He played well. Like I am not going to take anything away from him. The Lightning, you kind of thought going into this series that the edge was in the net. You got this rookie netminder. He hasn't been in these high pressure games really. But he did what he had to do. He made the saves he had to do. I think his best period in the entire game was the first period. He made that really nice save on Gage Gonsalves, who had walked around the defenseman, was right in the net. He's got Dobish moving. Dobish is a big dude, and when you get those big dudes moving, holes open up. And if you watch on the replay, that 5-hole is open, and Gonsalves makes the right decision. He tries to backhand it through, but just couldn't find the daylight. And then there was a flurry from that same line, the Bjorkstrand, Gonsalves, James line, where Bjorkstrand had a couple beautiful looks, and I think he made a glove save on Bjorkstrand. There was a shot on Braden Point that was a tough one that he made. And then athletic dive across the ice kind of saves. He just, he took what the Lightning gave him and made the stops, and credit to the players in front of him for limiting those high danger chances. The Lightning didn't have a lot of second chance opportunities. They didn't have a lot of rebound, and that's the guys in front of them. So, yeah, like I would say he played really well and he deserved the win. I don't know if I'm assuming he was a star of the game, but yeah, he and the whole series, that's exactly what he did. He made the saves they needed him to make when they needed him to make a save. So kudos to him. Good luck against Buffalo.
Montreal hardly ever had the puck offensively in this game. There was a ton of pressure on that defense because they were always pinned back in their own zone. I was amazed at how well they were able to keep Tampa away from the net. Over time, you would think that when you're constantly playing in your own end, at some point there's going to be a point blank chance or two. They just never let the Lightning have that in this game. But Justin, I do want to mention the Dominic James line. Dominic James, their line was tremendous, I thought, tonight. I thought if Tampa was going to get a second goal, it was going to come from him, Bjorkstrand, one of those guys. Tell us about that line.
There's kind of good and bad out of the fact that was the best line for the Lightning, and I think it was honestly the best line in the last two games for them. It's great that your third, fourth line, whatever you want to call them, played that well, right? You need depth scoring in the playoffs. That's what propelled Montreal to a couple of wins here. But at the same time, in a do or die game, is your third line being the best line a good thing? When you have Hall of Famers on your top two lines and they don't come through, it's kind of tough. And Kucherov is Kucherov, right? He's a great player. He makes mistakes. He turns the puck over. All great players do. I mean, if you ever look at the top, 5 players in giveaways any given year, it's going to be probably your top 5 offensive player. Connor McDavid's going to be up there. Nathan McKinnon's going to be up there just because they always have the puck. But at some point, at some point they had to make an impact, and credit again to Montreal for shutting him down. As much as the Lightning shut down, the Nick Suzuki line, Montreal did that to the whatever line Kucherov was on, whatever line Braden Point was on. And one of the things that was nice about seeing that James line perform is they played with speed. I mean, Dominic James, I think, is your next Yanni Gourde-esque player, right? He plays with an edge, he plays fast, and he has some offensive skill. I mean, that was a hell of a deflection he made on the power play goal. So it was great watching them play because you can kind of see a future line for the Lightning there. I mean, that line should be together next year. Well, maybe not with Bjorkstrand. You'll talk about that later as well. But James and Gonsalves played really well together, and you could see them as a third or fourth line next year, depending on how this roster shakes out. So it gives you a little hope as a Lightning fan, but they played with speed, and I think that was their biggest asset, is they were constantly pushing back those defenders, creating space for themselves. And maybe they made a couple bad reads here and there, but for the most part, they played really well, and it was fun to watch them when they were on the ice.
Kucherov had 1 goal in this series. He has 1 goal in his last 20 playoff games. For a guy who is a 130-point scorer, you just can't have that. You need your big guys to step up in big games. What is the problem with Kucherov in the playoffs? Does he just not want to get the dirty goals? Is it bad luck? 1 goal in 20, that's a pretty decent sample size.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's out there trying. Like, he's out there doing Kucherov-esque things. If you watch him, he's trying to get to the inside. He's trying to set plays up. He just gets so much attention and so little space to operate. I think he almost tries a little too hard. I think if he simplified his game a little bit, maybe just took the puck to the net a little bit more and shoot, things would eventually start going in for him, but he just has zero space out there. The last 4 teams they played the playoffs, their number 1 goal has been, we are not going to let Kucherov beat us. Yeah, he may set up a few goals here and there, but he's not going to be the guy who scores. Now, how do you go about giving him space to operate? It's tough. In today's NHL, everyone's scouted. Everybody knows what every team's doing. To flip him to the other side. Do you have him play on the left side a little bit? Do you have him play down low? I mean, especially on the power play, he was playing up a lot higher than he had for most of the season. I think that was an effort to get him some space, but every time he had to look at the net, there were 3 players in front of him. So it's just hard. And with Montreal shutting off those diagonal passes through the crease, through the slot, that's his bread and butter game. So with that shut off, it kind of takes him out. And that's, if you can answer that question, you probably get to the second round if you're the Lightning.
I'm going to ask you the turning point of the series for the Lightning and for the Canadiens. First for the Lightning.
Well, it obviously wasn't the Max Crozier hit, right? I mean, that storyline.
At one point, we thought it might be.
Doesn't it? Yeah, exactly. For me, I think it's Game 5. Again, we were talking about this before the cameras went on. I think if there's any game that the Lightning want back in this series, it's Game 5. I thought it was their worst game. I think Coach Cooper called it their worst game of the series. They had a chance. They're coming back to Tampa all tied up. You win that one, all the pressure's on Montreal in Game 6, right? Going back home, needing to stay alive. And the Lightning just came out so flat in that game, and they struggled through most of it. Yes, they got it to overtime, but they just didn't look good for most of the game. So I think they want that one back. And then as far as Montreal, I think it's Game 1. I mean, they came in, they beat the Lightning on their home ice, and they said, hey, and the way they did it, they stood up to the Lightning trying to bully them a little bit. The power play came through for them. So yeah, I think that gave them a lot of confidence going into it. You're the underdog and you win one game on the road to start things off. You're playing with house money in the second game, and then you go back home. If you split again, you're still good. So I thought that gave them kind of a little bit of confidence, gave them the momentum going into that first half of the series. So for me, that's kind of the turning point for them. And
Justin, when you and I were doing the podcast after the Olympic break, this team was comfortably in first place. Did they not value winning the division enough? Because playing Boston or even Ottawa would have been a much better matchup than having to play Montreal or possibly Buffalo. We didn't know at the time as the season was evolving. Did they let off the gas a little bit after the Olympics, and that cost them a better first-round matchup?
I don't think so. I think, honestly, even with the long break and the fact that, the majority of their players did have off, especially their 2 best players in Kucherov and Vasilevsky, I think the season just kind of caught up with them. All the injuries, fighting through all the injuries, even that long winning streak, there are a lot of road games, and then March was such a heavy schedule. I just think they got exhausted and got out of their rhythm a little bit. There's 1,000 reasons we can pick apart why they kind of struggled, but the funny thing is with the way this series went, they may have been better off being the 3 seed. I mean, home teams only won 2 games in this series, right? So maybe they wanted to play Game 7 in Montreal. Maybe they should have lost maybe they should have lost to Detroit and then had that lower seed. But you never know.
Justin, I want to stop you real quick right there. Do you think for Montreal having Game 7 in Tampa was a little bit easier than having it in Montreal? The reason is you're playing Game 7 at home. You're in your home ice. It's great. You get the last change, but there is more pressure. For a younger hockey team, did they benefit by being on the road?
I think so. I mean, we saw what Game 6 was like, right? The atmosphere for that one when they had a chance to win it. That's a lot of pressure for a young team, and they played really well. As well as played in Game 6. I thought Montreal did exactly what they needed to do. They just got Vasilevski'd a little bit. That's the way you can look at it. And again, starting, I think it was more important that they started on the road, to tell you the truth. Because you get a little bit of time down in the city. You get to acclimate in Tampa a little bit. You get to stay in the hotel. You don't have that that pressure of Game 1 at home where the fans are going to be excited and you're going to want to do it. You're going to want to go out there and score 1 billion goals on your first shift because you're all amped up by the crowd. So again, you get back to that Game 1. They win that on the road. The pressure's off of them basically for the next 3 or 4 games, right? Okay, you lost Game 2, you get a split, but then you get a 2-day break. And I thought that was really interesting. The Lightning won their first 2 wins came right before 2-day breaks. I felt like they didn't get a chance to really capitalize on any momentum they built in the wins in Game 2 and Game 4 because you had that extra day off. It kind of allowed Montreal to reset a little bit and be like, okay, we lost. We can shake it off, get a good day of practice in, and then get right back out to what we need to do. So I think it kind of all adds up. Of course, we don't know what would have happened if Montreal was in Game 7. Maybe they feed off the crowd and blow the Lightning out 6-1 or something like that. It's you just never know. I thought they played a great series. I don't want to take anything away from Montreal. I mean, I thought they played fantastic, and we knew it going into the match that this was going to be a close one. I think we both were kind of surprised that the Lightning were such heavy betting favorites prior to the series, right?
But we talked about that on air and off the air.
Exactly. And, you watch how these two teams played and just the NHL in general is so close now. And then these two teams that finished with the same amount of points. So I'm not surprised that this went 7 series. I'm not surprised that, there was 1-2 goal lead the entire time. So it's just the Lightning just ended up on the wrong side of it. And I feel like if they played 9 games, maybe the Lightning win the series. If they play 8 games, because I thought the Lightning were getting better as the series went on, with the exception of Game 5.
I agree.
So maybe it's on them for not starting the series with the intensity that they needed. But at the same time, it's like, man, just one bounce here, one extra shot there, one skate blade here. And this is a different story, right? JJ Moser gets out of the way of that deflected puck, or if it hits him on the other side of the shin pad, goes just wide. There's a 1,000 things, little bounces here and there that, it was so close. Such a great series. I think as time heals all wounds, we'll look back on it and be, man, what a great series this was for a first round series.
Oh, it was tremendous. It was great hockey. The one thing I was still surprised about with Montreal was if you would have told me that Slafkovsky, Caulfield, and Suzuki really after Game 1 I don't want to say they were non-factors, because in Game 6, I thought they played a really good game. They just didn't score, but Tampa was able to keep them off of the score sheet. And I thought in order for Montreal to win this series, that top line had to be awesome. And they weren't. And Montreal still won the series. That's a credit to Montreal. And I think, hey, maybe they were deeper than I gave them credit for. And also, I think Martin St. Louis he pushed the right buttons. You have to give him credit for a guy who does not have a ton of playoff experience as a head coach. He pushed the right buttons with the youngest team in the NHL playoffs, and he got them to win. Justin, we have to ask this one question. This is 4 consecutive first-round losses for the Lightning. Does something need to change with the roster? Does something need to change with the organization in order to move forward?
It's funny. We're walking back to where we had parked, and it's in a neighborhood. Then there's a couple out walking their dog, and we're walking back, and I got my Lightning jersey on, and the lady goes, "Hey, I just want to ask you a question." I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" She goes, "Do you trade Kucherov after this?" And I'm like, I get it, man. I get this knee-jerk reaction that you want to blow it all up, right? It's 4 years in a row. But I go, no. I was like, you don't trade arguably the best player in the league. And then the man she was with, I go, unless it's a Godfather offer, unless it's a deal you absolutely cannot refuse, like 5 first-round picks and 2 grade A prospects, right? He goes, well, what if it's McDavid? I was like, the funny thing is, I bet you there are fans in Edmonton that would take this deal in a heartbeat, right? They'd be like, oh, we're never going to win with Connor McDavid, so we need to trade him, right? It's been however many years since, it's been a decade and we can't win the window. So I think there's that knee-jerk reaction to blow things up. I think there's some serious tinkering that has to be done. I don't think any of your top players are going to go out. I think maybe you move somebody like Nick Paul or Eric Chernak, because I think there is room where you have to get faster. I think this team was built to beat the Florida Panthers of the world. It was built to be more physical. It was a reaction to them getting bullied kind of the last 2 years in the playoffs. But I think the league is moving to a faster league. If you look at the teams that are in the second round, it's the Buffaloes, it's Montreal, it's Minnesota, Carolina, these teams that play with speed, even Anaheim to a certain extent, it's young players that play the puck fast, that put pressure on you. And I think the Lightning need to kind of tinker that, find some of these players that they can do it. So I think you got to clear out some of your older players. If you can move Chernak, I think you have enough depth on the right-hand side, depending on what you do with Radish, that you can have Max Sturger step in. You can have Emil Lilleberg or Destu play on the right side, and you're going to be okay. But I don't think you need to blow it up. I don't think you need to trade Vasilevsky. You don't need to trade Kucherov. You don't need to trade Point. Now, am I going to publish an article sometime in the next 2 weeks where we talk about trading those guys and just blowing it up just for fun as a thought exercise? Probably. I love doing that. Everybody loves trade armchair GM trades. But
if you do, Justin,
yeah.
Instead of McDavid, have it be Draisaitl. I think if Edmonton makes a move, I think it's going to be Draisaitl.
Vasilevsky for Draisaitl, who says no? I wouldn't be surprised to see that either. I think it's hard to trade McDavid out of Edmonton. I think the guy wants to win there. We can always go back, make jokes of the look on his face when they drafted him, in 2015 or whatever. But as we come to learn, I think that's just Connor McDavid's natural resting face, is to look disappointed. He's not exactly the most, emotive guy in the world, but I don't think you blow it up. Yeah, I don't think you blow it up. I think this is a really good team. Let's make no mistake. This is a good team that, struggled at times, but all teams do. I mean, every team in this league struggled at some point in the season.
They had 106 points.
Yeah, they had 106 points. You don't blow up a 106-point team, and they did it the right way. I mean, this wasn't a fluke 116-point team. They beat a lot of good teams along the way. I think they had matched up against one of the worst teams they could match up against. It'd be either them or Buffalo. I think would have been their worst two teams that meet in the first round, but that's 6 other teams or 5 other teams in the East that they could have played and beaten. I think they beat Ottawa. I think they beat Boston. I think they play well against Carolina. I don't know if they beat them, but some of these other teams in the East, and in the West, who's better than Minnesota? Maybe Colorado. I mean, they'll give both those teams a run for money if they could have gotten out of the first 2 rounds, if they could have gotten to the Cup final, but. It's the beauty of this league, man. It's such a close league that it's tough. So yeah, I think they seriously think about getting faster, getting younger. How they go about doing that. You're going to have some open spots on the roster. Do you call up Jacob Pelletier? Do you say, hey, Connor Geekie, you're going to be our third line center. That's it. No matter what you do, we're going to play you 15 minutes a day. We're going to give you some power play time. Just be better. I think you found a gem in Dominic James and Charles Edward Destu. I think those are great finds. I think they're going to play next year. They're going to have big roles. But what else do you do to make this a better, faster team?
The Lightning have been in win now mode for quite some time. And when you're in win now mode, you don't have high first-round picks or first-round picks at all. Unfortunately, they don't have that next budding superstar waiting to come in because they're constantly in the top half of the NHL. They've always thought they've had a chance to win, even though they've had numerous first-round exits. They're playing to win. So in order to get that impact player, Justin, I think they might have to make some trades in order to get that roster younger, faster, and quicker.
Yeah, but I mean, who are you going to trade with that's going to give you a player like that, right?
You might have to trade either some high draft picks, or you might have to trade a player you don't want to.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're trading somebody at Braden Point, who's gonna make that deal that gets you, a grade A prospect? Like, who out there literally can you make a deal with? Is it Pittsburgh? I mean, do they give up, one of their young guys that had a really good year, or even that, or, Buffalo, do they give up one of their players? Does Minnesota give up a player for like an Anthony Cirelli? I mean, that's something I could see. I was like, do you trade Anthony Cirelli? I think teams would be coveting a player like him, but that's that's what JBB gets paid the big bucks for. So he's got to figure this out. Like you said, with them trading all the assets, you can't draft these young game-changing players in the 5th round and the 4th round, and especially at the end of the 4th round or the end of the 3rd round. Everybody you pick up is going to have flaws, and 90% of the
Right.
time it's speed, right? It's skating. If you look at the Lightning's list of draft picks, I would say 75% of them, the biggest flaw is average to below average NHL skating. Then you have a couple in there, you got the Finnish kids that have a little bit more speed, but again, now you're talking about undersized players. Jonas Saarinen, he's a good player, he's a good playmaker, but is he big enough to play in the NHL? So we'll see. We'll see how JBB goes about it. I do think he's probably going to do something that we're not expecting, either before the draft, during the draft, or for free agency. I mean, I'm not excited about the free agent class.
Most of the big time players have already re-signed. Now there's going to be 2 players that I can think of off the top of my head: Alex Tuch from Buffalo and Darren Radish of the Bolts. Now, Justin, we're going to do rapid fire. I'm going to give you 5 Lightning free agents. All I need you to do is tell me they re-sign them or they go. First of all, Oliver Bjorkstrand.
Let him go.
Corey Perry.
Let him go. You know,
Mitchell
pay for him
Chafee.
at the deadline. I'd like to see him sign Chafee. I think that you can bring him back for a relatively inexpensive deal. So he's good depth forward. Bring him back.
Scott Sabrin.
Let him go. I signed him to an AHL deal on July 2nd.
Darren Radish.
I mean, that's your $9 million a year question, right? What do you do with Radish? I've gone, even in the last week, I've gone back and forth with the Radish question. Again, to me, it's not a dollar amount. It's going to be your term. If you sign him to 6 or 7 years, that better be around $6 million or less. I think that's an affordable deal for him. He'll be 35, 36 at the end of it. But I think you can take that. But if you're talking 7 years, $9 million, I would run from that. I think there's other ways you can spend that money. Yeah, I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say 6 years, $8.7 million.
Finally, final question. Victor Hedman. Does he play next year?
Yes, I think he does.
Okay.
I think there was a chance he could have played tonight, but they didn't want to upset the chemistry. We saw Noah Dobson come back for Montreal. I don't think he was a factor whatsoever. I don't remember him on the ice that much. I didn't notice him. I think I saw him towards the end. I think he blocked a shot and kind of limped off. I think if the Lightning had won tonight, I think Hedman starts game 1 on Wednesday in Buffalo. I think he was very close to coming back. And like I said, I just don't think they wanted to throw him in game 7, having not played in 2 months or whatever. So I think he's back. I think he's back to being kind of closer to the Victor Hedman we're used to next year as well.
Justin, real quick, we have 4 series going on in the Eastern Conference. Carolina is taking on the Philadelphia Flyers. We alluded to our predictions earlier. I had Carolina in 5. I think it's going to be a pretty easy series for Carolina. Who do you have?
I think it's Carolina. I think they dominated that game yesterday. I don't think the final score is indicative of how much better they were than Philadelphia. Philly's really only chance is if they can, Vladar can steal a game, or if they can maybe muck it up a little bit, get into one of these high penalty games where, everybody's off for roughing, everybody's, if there's line scrums and it's slowed down. Other than that, I think Carolina wins this pretty easily. I wouldn't be surprised.
Then we have Montreal taking on Buffalo. I think Buffalo in 6.
Oh, yes, we're right on that one. I think this took a lot out of Montreal. I think the series. I think it's a good learning experience for them. I think it really taught them what they need to do to win in the playoffs. But I think they took a beating from the Lightning to get there. And does Dobish play as well against a team that is more inclined to shoot than the Lightning are?
And they're going to create more traffic.
They're going to create more traffic. I mean, you got big old Tage Thompson just doing Tage Thompson things in front. You know, you mentioned Alex Tuch. I think he's a better version of Oliver Bjorkstrand. So when we talk about free agency, I wonder if the Lightning make a run for him, because I think he does everything Oliver Bjorkstrand does, but better. And we'll talk about this in another episode. But I think then you got the offensive depth, you know, with Owen Power and Rasmus Dahlin and the guys on the blue line for Buffalo. So yeah, I like Buffalo in 6 in that one as well.
The one interesting fact about that series is if Carolina would sweep and Buffalo and Montreal goes the distance in 7 games, Carolina will have almost 2 weeks off in between series because they started that series before the remainder of the first round series ended. Justin, real quick, let's go out west. Colorado, Minnesota, who are playing right now. Last time, it's 11:30 Eastern time. Last time you said it was 5-5 in the second period.
It is now. It is 7-5 with 9 minutes to go. Colorado's up.
Wow.
They have a combined 68 shots on goal. I'm pretty sure 12 goals is roughly 5 games worth of offense between the Lightning and the Canadiens. So I wonder what it's like to watch a team that actually scores and an opponent that actually scores. So I think this is just one of those crazy games. I don't think the entire series is going to be like this, to tell you the truth. I think both goaltenders will kind of settle down. That being said, I think this is the best matchup in the second round. I mean, this is basically a Western Conference final in my book. So I think whichever team wins this series probably goes to the Stanley Cup.
So who do you have?
Really feels like Billy Guerin's year, doesn't it? So let's go.
It does. I'm still going Colorado in 6. Wallstead has not been through the wars yet.
I'm going to go with Minnesota in 7 then.
Let's head to the final series. Vegas, the Golden Knights win the Pacific Division. They are going to host Anaheim in games 1 and 2. Anaheim upset Edmonton in the first round. Vegas knocked off a very, very live Utah team that really pushed them to the limit. A number of overtime games. I think this is a pretty easy victory for Vegas. I think Vegas in 5.
All right. I'm going to one-up you. I'm going to say Vegas in 6. I think these your man counted out Ducks of Anaheim kind of pull one or two out. Again, there's one of these teams that's probably too young to know that they're supposed to get their asses kicked, but I think they pull 1 or 2 games out. And but I think Vegas in the end is the better team. A lot of it's going to come down to Carter Hart, right? You know,
yeah,
he hasn't been fantastic, so he hasn't been healthy either. You know, if he gets hurt again, where do you go from there if you're Vegas? If they can get some pucks on Hart, make him work, maybe they can steal a game or 2 here. So, but that being said, Vegas in 6 for me.
We are going to be back. We're going to drop a podcast on Saturday. We're going to talk a little bit more about the other NHL playoff series, and we're also going to talk about the Syracuse Crunch. We're going to get into their playoff drive as well. For the managing editor of Raw Charge, he is Justin Godfrey. You can read him each and every day at www.rawcharge.com. I'm Jason Linkus. Thank you very much for joining us today and for all the podcasts that we've given you since we started in February. Please hit that like and subscribe button, and go Bolts.
Go Bolts. See you next year.
Thank you for listening to Backchecking the Bolts. We are free and available on all platforms, including Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon, YouTube, and Deezer. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to subscribe and leave a review. You can follow Justin on Blue Sky at rawcharge.com. You can follow the show on X at Tampa_Bolts_pod and on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Backchecking the Bolts. If you're interested in advertising on the show or partnering with us, you can find more information in the show notes or email Jason at backcheckingthebolts@yahoo.com.